This is a regular city council meeting of the City of Ocean Shores. It's April 28th, 2026, and the time is 6 p.m. The meeting is being held at the Ocean Shores Convention Center. The meetings are simulcast and archived on KOSW radio. Meetings are live streamed with closed captioning and may be accessed on the city website under council recordings. The meetings can be viewed on cable channel 68 Thursdays at 12 p.m. and Sundays at 10 a.m. We have roll call, please.
Councilmember Sires?
Here.
Councilmember Taylor?
Here.
Councilmember Griebel?
Here.
Councilmember Klein?
Here.
Councilmember Scott?
Here.
Councilmember Wills?
Here.
Councilmember Dooley?
Here.
All right, Lisa Griebel, can you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right, can I get approval of tonight's meeting agenda? Go ahead, Denise.
I would like to amend the meeting agenda, and I move to table agenda item number 8.
Second.
All right, we have a second. Any conversation? All right, all in favor? All opposed? Can we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Sires?
Yes.
Councilmember Sires is a yes. Councilmember Taylor?
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor is a yes. Councilmember Griebel?
Yes.
Councilmember Griebel is a yes. Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein is a yes. Councilmember Scott?
Yes.
Councilmember Scott is a yes. Councilmember Wills?
Yes.
Councilmember Wills is a yes. Councilmember Dooley?
No, and it's
Councilmember-
not because I'm pro ordinances, I'm pro discussing it in public. Thank you.
Councilmember Dooley is a no. That is... That's 6 yeses and 1 no. Motion
All right.
passes.
Motion passes. So we have an amended agenda. Yes, Denise?
I move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
All right, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, it's unanimous. All right, next up we have ceremonies and proclamations. So I guess I will move over here.
There.
I can't use this one. I got it in my hand now. So I would like to introduce our new police chief, Carrie Vesco. And Carrie brings 26 years of distinguished law enforcement experience to the City of Ocean Shores. Having served across county, municipal, and school-based policing agencies, in the roles spanning patrol officer, detective, corporal, sergeant, lieutenant, and deputy chief. Carrie is a graduate of Penn State University, holding a master's in professional studies in Homeland Security. Chief Vesco relocated to Ocean Shores in November of 2025, bringing a wealth of experience in investigation, community policing, and organizational leadership. A proud wife, mother of 4 adult children, a grandmother, she is deeply committed to serving the families and community she is honored to protect. And we'd like to have Carlos, her husband, come up and pin the badge. All right, welcome, Carrie. Nicole is going to do her oath of office here.
You know the drill.
I, Caridad Vesco, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America, the Constitution of the State of Washington, the laws of the State of Washington, the ordinances of the City of Ocean Shores, and will safely perform the duties of Police Chief for the City of Ocean Shores, Washington, to the best of my abilities. And now I'd like to introduce our newest entry-level candidate hire, Jair Romero. Jair, if you'd please come up and join me. So born and raised in Mexico, Jair Romero came to Washington in 2003 and later made Ocean Shores his home with his family in 2019, quickly becoming an active member of the community. In 2020, he proudly achieved one of the most meaningful milestones of his life by becoming a United States citizen. Reflecting his dedication to the country and the opportunities it has provided. A devoted husband since 2012 and a proud father of a 7-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old son, Jair places family at the center of everything that he does. Guided by those same values of service, protection, and community, he is honored to join the Ocean Shores Police Department and looks forward to helping keep Ocean Shores a safe, strong, and welcoming place for all who call it home. Welcome aboard.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me.
I, Jair Eduardo Romero Alia, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America, the Constitution of the United of Washington, the laws of the State of Washington, the ordinances of the City of Ocean Shores, and faithfully perform the duties of police officer for the City of Ocean Shores, Washington, to the best of my abilities.
All right, announcements, board and committee vacancies. We have 2 vacancies on the Parks Board, 2 vacancies on the Building Code Board of Appeals, and 1 vacancy on the Radio Board. We have no appointments, no other reports, so we'll move on to public comment. And public comment to council is intended for communication to the City Council regarding general council business or policy not on tonight's agenda. Address comments and questions to the City Council body, not to individual council members, staff, or audience members. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. This is not a question and answer time, and the council cannot engage in conversation with the public. Personal attacks, abusive language, slanderous remarks, or disruptive behavior will not be tolerated. No person may use a public comment for the purpose of campaign or advertisement. The time will begin once the citizen has started their public comment. At 2 minutes, you will see a green light followed by a yellow light indicating 30 seconds remain in the public comment period. The red light will notify the reader that their public comment has ended. In order, individuals attending in person. Next will be individuals attending remotely. And the general public comment, whether in person or remotely, will continue in the usual position on the agenda. If an agenda item has been removed, public comment regarding that item will be addressed following the conclusion of the general public comments. After those who have signed up,
That's a note for you.
oh, well, anyway. We're going to allow public comment for the specific item that was removed, so everybody will still get their chance to comment on that. So anyway, we'll start with that.
All right, so then for general public comment not related to item 8 in the ordinance that was removed, we have only 3. Arthur James Nate, I believe. Good days. Arthur James Nate. Oh, is it? Okay, so I will, that was the only one we weren't sure of, so I will move that then to this. Okay, then we only have 2 public comments. Susan Canary, don't have to, can't make me.
Susan Canary. In January of 2025, the city administrator issued a formal directive on city letterhead. It contained a defamatory falsehood that I was a party to a lawsuit against this city. That lie remains uncorrected. It has been used as more than just a shield to cut off my access to city staff. It has been used as a license for harassment. When you allow a defamatory lie to stand, you create a culture of permission. That permission has been taken up not only by a staff member with close ties to the mayor, who harassed and intimidated me at a public meeting, but by the mayor's own followers, resulting in a handwritten hate mail delivered to my home. I have followed every proper channel you've hidden behind. I have sent the emails, filed the complaints, and stood at the podium. Rather than a resolution, the silence is so profound, it suggests this city is run by ghosts rather than elected officials. When I did manage to get word from the mayor pro tem, it was a deflection. I was told this council bears no responsibility for staff conduct because it falls under the executive branch. Let's dismantle that. You approve the budget that pays those salaries. You set the policies that govern this city. To suggest the executive branch is a law unto itself and that you are powerless to stop an administrator from defaming a resident is a surrender of your office. If you truly have no oversight, you are not a governing body, you are a spectator sport. You are now attempting to restrict public comment to council business. Let's be clear. The conduct of city employees, the truthfulness of your administration, and the safety of the residents who pay your salaries is the definition of council business. I am not looking for a nod or a word tonight. I am looking at the record. Does this city continue to stand by the city administrator's lie that I am suing you? By tomorrow, your continued refusal to issue a correction will no longer be a procedural necessity. It will be confirmation. It will confirm that in this city, the truth is optional and accountability is non-existent. If there is no correction, the message is clear. You aren't governing. You're just waiting for me to go away. I won't.
Jane Shattuck, support our police.
I would like to ask everybody not to applaud. That's not allowed in the meeting. So you can pat whoever you like on the back, but keep the clapping to a minimum. Thank you.
Go ahead, Jane.
Jane Shattuck, Ocean Shores resident. After seeing some deeply discouraging comments on social media this weekend on the OSPD webpage or Facebook page, I would simply like to remind people of this. Our police officers serve this community every day with dedication, courage, and a genuine commitment to public safety. They step forward to protect our families, our neighborhoods, and the quality of life we all value. Many of our officers are not just public servants, they are longtime residents, neighbors, parents, spouses, and active members of this community who have chosen to serve the place they call home. Beyond every badge is a person committed to service, sacrifice, and responsibility. It is important that we recognize and appreciate the countless ways these officers work each day to keep our city safe, strong, and connected. Supporting our officers is about honoring those who continue to stand beside this community and serve it with pride. Thank you.
One more time, please. Let's avoid the applause or booing or anything when other people are speaking or afterwards. And with that, we will go to item 8, public comment. Joni Arnold, proposed ordinance on special events, rallies, and protests. I do have Tom Hamilton as one, but I have two that were somehow an A and a B that are somehow out of offer. Joni Arnold and Arthur James Nate. So do you want me, what's that? So if there's a Joni Arnold here and an Arthur James Nate, okay,
I'm Joni.
go ahead, Joni, please.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Joni Arnold, and I've lived in Ocean Shores for 20 years. I'd like to make a few comments of concern about the proposed ordinance changes regarding special events, rallies, and protests. I have only two main points to cover. First, at issue are the basic constitutional rights of free speech and freedom of assembly. I was born in 1944, wartime. I do not believe in war, but I still honor those who serve. My father was in the Army Air Corps, my brother was in Korea, and it seemed that my whole generation was in Vietnam. Their children were in the Gulf, and now their grandchildren are back in the Gulf again. They were all in these various theaters of war to defend our constitutional rights, including speech and peaceful assembly. I believe I would be failing to honor their service were I not to do my small part by rising here to say that the proposed ordinance is a threat to free speech and the right to peaceful assembly. My second point is on a personal level. I have participated in many of the rallies here during the past 2 or 3 years. In all cases, I and everyone else at those rallies respected the law, acted peacefully, refrained from engaging with occasional hecklers. We were never as loud as the passing traffic. Our rallies were short, 1 to 2 hours. Our leaders informed the police ahead of time. We never impeded traffic, and we never left behind so much as a gum wrapper. The proposed ordinance changes specifically target these rallies and our group, forbidding the use of specific locations and times we gathered. Since, as I have said, we conducted ourselves properly, I can only conclude that the proposed ordinance is designed not to amend any bad behavior, but rather to silence our message. The only obvious reason I can imagine is that the framers of the proposed ordinance must have political views opposed to those we expressed at our rallies. If that is the case, imposing these restrictions upon us would be downright un-American.
All right, and then the other one, and I do apologize, this got out of order, but we just did not know what the topic was. Arthur James Nate, Good Days.
Okay, I did title mine Good Days and a little bit of irony. I'm actually 100% in favor of this ordinance going through. As a consistent protester, I hope you all voted in. And I hope that I get a citation as soon as possible. I hope I get arrested as much as possible. And I hope those arrests are on Trump charges. And I hope all the police have their bonds in order. For everyone that doesn't know that, all police have to be insured to be employable. And I hope the city also has their insurance in order. Because I have a mortgage and it'd be great to have that paid off quickly. As I'm sure most people are informed, this is an anti-constitutional law. And I don't know who wrote it, don't much care. But I'll be pleased if it passes and is enforced. Thank you.
Tom Hamilton, Epiphany.
Tom Hamilton, Ocean Shores. First, I'd like to offer my congratulations to the new chief and new police hire. My father was a policeman for 28 years in a small community back east. I appreciate the job that lies ahead of them. My family left on vacation on Ash Wednesday and gave up toxic Ocean Shores politics for Lent. After 40 days in the desert, on Holy Saturday, we arrived at a place called Salvation Mountain. And like another man who spent 40 days in the desert, I had an epiphany. Ocean Shores is dying a slow death because of lack of leadership, vision, and conviction. Some insist that Ocean Shores need only be concerned with local matters. Yet, the national environment is played out daily within the city limits, often in this room and at this very podium. After reviewing the meeting on sanctuary city status, it is clear that we are a microcosm of the nation itself with its division of bigotry, misogyny, hate versus passion, empathy, and caring. Mr. Mayor, I understand you don't follow the cesspool of social media. You don't have to understand what is happening on your watch. It is right here in front of you, rearing its ugly head. When citizens are threatened in this chamber for their remarks, to the point that they fear for their safety and need police escort to their cars in the parking lot, what does that tell us? What have you done to dissuade this behavior to bring the community together? Mr. Mayor, your State of the City address ticked off a list of normal activity. Where was your vision for the city? Where were the ideas to expand economic growth? In the last election, you campaigned against your opponent because they were being paid $60,000 a year salary. What are you doing for your $60,000 salary? How are you creating a healthy city? Instead of using loopholes to allow business to skirt the law, put in traffic revisions that make no sense, make major hiring decisions in secret, no transparency, use the smokescreen of public safety to suppress the public's First Amendment right to speak out and ignore the brewing attention in this city. Perhaps it would be helpful for council to see the outrage is generated with a show of hands of those who have taken the time to show up. Mr. Mayor, if you can't step up, it's time to step down.
Tenny Jones, Audacity.
Tenny Jones, a full-time resident going on 6 years here. I'm also a veteran of the United States Air Force, very well knowledgeable with the Constitution. To celebrate and exercise my freedom of speech and assembly, I go to every single protest every Saturday. I know what happens there because I show up before everyone else and I'm the last to leave. We clean up our mess. We don't antagonize people. We're just expressing ourselves. If you don't agree with our opinion, that's fine. If you want to stand out there and do that, I promise I won't go by and flip you off or sit halfway out of the vehicle or speed by going 40 miles an hour in a 25-mile-an-hour zone. I do respect the police when they give me a reason to. They don't just get my undying trust, okay? I've already told you why, and I'm not going to repeat it. At first, I was very enraged to hear that some cowardly author, and I can't figure out who did this, of this disgusting attempt to shut up people. But then I gratefully remembered no one in this room has the right to take that from me, and any other room either. The need to control how or what we stand for, it really shows how little faith you have in your own beliefs, whether it's religious or political, because if you had great faith in your beliefs, you wouldn't have to force other people to shut up or shove your stuff down their throat. I stand in the knowledge that I am a free woman. My daddy was a veteran and a preacher. My brother was a veteran, and all of my cousins, most of my cousins are veterans, come from a family of people who serve. What happens when you take away the ability for people to express themselves? What do you think happens? We get frustrated and less likely to be peaceful, which we have been peaceful. Anybody would become frustrated. I really hope that whoever wrote this thing did not just stand in front of this whole room and pledge allegiance to that flag because you just defecated on the Constitution. Shame. If anyone thinks they're going to shut me up, good luck. My husband can't do it.
Sylvia Fain, no topic.
Hi, I'm Sylvia Fain. Happy to be here, kind of, sort of. I was busy planting dahlias and I had to stop because of all this chaos that ensued this week. Okay, I'm going to just read for you all some of the lovely comments I've received from the Christian people in this town this week. Well, actually, some of them are from the Sanctuary City stuff too. Quote, we'll put her 2 feet under. Let's just hang them. It ain't over till the fat lady sings. They told us that in here. We're so sick of all their hatred. They're so violent. Oh. So I go into the police station and I ask her to show, can I get a printout of all the incidents, of all the, issues that there have been in the last year? Well, she couldn't give me anything because there's no incidences. We have been so careful. And the fact that we even have to have this conversation is insulting, disgusting, and we're going to find some lawyers, really good ones. Frank, I am so disappointed in you as a mayor. I really supported you and liked you, and I feel like your silence and your ignoring of all of this has created a green light for all your buddies at your church to come after me. And if you're, of course, can't look at Facebook, oh, here's some more. We're sick and tired of them. I will kill you. I will bring guns, but I'm watching you. That one came today. I gave it to the chief. These Sylvia Fain F, but the real word, in dumbasses have to be stomped. MPED. That was last night. They ruin businesses. They park in our lots. No, we don't. And if you're going to have a meeting with the businesses, why wouldn't you invite us so we can discuss it? Because I've gone to every single shop on Point Brown previously. They may have changed their mind, some of them. I don't have a problem with that. But don't sneak around and do stuff and then, put it in the guise of neutrality and safety. What a bunch of baloney. I can't even say anymore. I'm so infuriated with you and you and you. Done. But we will be hiring lawyers if you keep it up.
Kat Kaywood, protests. All right. Hey, we're going to have to clear the room with this. Nope.
Everybody settle down. I don't know. We can't hear everything that's going on back there up here, but we all need to behave ourselves.
Kat, please go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Kat, and I'm a resident of Ocean Shores. This ordinance is being tabled tonight because the residents showed up, not because the council identified a problem with it, not because anyone here has recognized its constitutional failures on their own, because residents wrote letters, made calls, and refused to let it pass in the dark. I want to be precise about what this council nearly voted on. We are told this ordinance is about public safety, and I want to take that justification seriously because if it were true, it would matter. But public safety does not explain why churches and schools are exempt while political demonstrations are not. Public safety does not explain why the restrictions fall exclusively on the hours when people are actually present and listening. And public safety does not explain why some of the loudest voices in favor of this ordinance are the same people whose social media posts are joking about running over protesters, the same people who drive by screaming obscenities and flipping us off. Sorry, I'm just really upset. When the stated reason for a law does not match the fact When every provision lands on one group and exempts another, the law has a content problem. The Supreme Court has been unambiguous on this. Content neutral means genuinely neutral, not neutral on paper while targeting one community in practice. You nearly passed a provision banning demonstrations for 10 hours every weekend, the only 10 hours that matter in a tourist town. The Supreme Court addressed this in Ward v. Rock Against Racism. Restrictions on expression must leave open ample alternative channels. A window before 9 a.m. or after 7 p.m. when the streets are empty is not a channel. It is a door that opens to a wall. Any attorney reviewing this ordinance would have told you that. We still do not know who wrote this ordinance, who worked on it, or who directed that it be brought forward. That is not a procedural footnote. That is a foundational question about who holds legislative power in the city and who is wielding it. From the shadows against the constitutional rights of the residents, this community deserves a clear answer before this ordinance goes anywhere near a committee. I am glad that it's being tabled, but I want this council to sit with the fact that it took community mobilizing in a matter of days to stop something that should have never been made to this agenda in the first place. That's it. Thank you.
Lillian Broadbent, Civil Rights.
Lillian Broadbent, longtime resident of Ocean Shores. I'm sorry to feel like I need to get up and speak tonight. I saw this ordinance presented first, of course, when it came out with the agenda packet. And I noticed a number of things that were terribly disturbing. My husband and I, in 2004, led a campaign here to change our form of government to a strong mayor and a strong legislative arm. This ordinance didn't come from the legislative arm, which is where ordinance normally come from. It came seemingly out of the blue. It was never discussed in public session, nor was the administration ever directed to create an ordinance. The process here is all backwards. It should never have come forward. The ordinance that says it's being amended is one that has been held here in this city for a very long time. It's a process I've personally used. It has absolutely nothing to do with the restrictive language that is in this, quote, amendment. When you have 14 pages amending a 3-page ordinance, you have a new ordinance. It needs to go through all of the processes, and it needs to come from council. I'm glad this was tabled. I hope it was tabled for a long time. The ordinance as it stands right now is a lawsuit waiting to happen. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I've paid for enough lawsuits from this city over the years. I don't want to pay for another one, but I will willingly help get one going should this ordinance come back in its current form. The issue of safety is at best tenuous. These rallies have been going on for a year, 1 hour on a Saturday, and there have been 0 safety issues. I think there have been 0 police issues. The group that does the rallies has their own security, and I can guarantee that some of the things you read about on Facebook absolutely didn't happen. Or if they did, it was a very isolated instance. We stand 2 feet back from the margins. We do our best to keep the area clean. And we cope with unbridled nastiness. We have a lady who drives around.
Lillian, that's time.
Thank you.
Jen Helm, Special Events Ordinance.
Good evening. I'm Jen Helm. I'm a resident here in Ocean Shores. I was greatly disturbed when I first learned of this ordinance. It appears that the first impulse here is to restrict freedoms and stifle speech when better, more effective, and desirable alternatives exist. An authoritarian, limiting regulation is problematic at best and reduces freedom, while a thoughtful and effective approach would improve our community for everyone. If safety is the primary concern, it is far better served by making the public spaces more safe and pedestrian friendly at all times. The safety question is ever present, not just during the very occasional short duration of a peaceful gathering, but every day. Visitors and residents constantly shop and eat at the many establishments on Point Brown. This proposal does nothing for the 99% of the time when there is no gathering or demonstration. When a child or unsteady person might stumble on an unpaved gravel area into the street, or when a car swerves out of the traffic lane to secure a parking space at the last minute, or vehicles drive faster than the speed limit on this road, this ordinance does nothing to avoid visual distractions and confusion at the roundabout when there is a demonstration that takes place there with banners. It fails to meaningfully address pedestrian safety. It doesn't pass the sniff test. I urge the council to carefully consider the true needs of the community and the true purpose behind this ordinance and work for a safe and effective solution rather than restricting our freedoms. Thank you.
Jennifer Webb, amendment to chapter 5.24 of the OSMC.
This amendment places new restrictions on peaceful protest, banning loudspeakers, confining demonstrations to less visible areas, and imposing sweeping financial liability on organizers. Taken together, these provisions do not simply regulate these events, they risk suppressing meaningful public expression. If you push demonstrations out of public view and make them financially risky, you will undermine our right to assemble. Especially concerning to me is the selective nature of the exemptions. If public safety is the true objective, then similar gatherings should be treated similarly. Why would you want churchgoers to be less safe than protesters? The only reason is if it's not about public safety. By exempting churches while imposing stricter burdens on protesters, the City of Ocean Shores has raised serious concerns about fairness and whether these rules will be applied evenly. Regulations like these shape who feels able to speak up, who feels welcome in our city, and whose voices are silenced. I love living in Ocean Shores. I love it here. Please don't ruin it.
I believe it's Roland Trelor, amendment to chapter 524 of the Ocean Shores Municipal Code.
Hello, council, citizens. My name is Ron Trelor. I'm a resident of the town of Ocean Shores. My wife and I bought a house and moved here full-time in 2021 and have loved it ever since, until now. We are dismayed by some people's attempt with this latest amendment to alter the laws here to make it difficult for people to peacefully protest and voice their discontent in public as the founding fathers intended within the Bill of Rights. The attempt to reclassify peaceful protests under this chapter appears to be a targeted effort to restrict the constitutional right to protest and voice public discontent. Furthermore, the amendment's exemption of religious organizations creates an inequitable application of the law. I remember giving the Pledge of Allegiance, and I did it today here, as a child in school every day. I think we all remember that. Now, we all took oaths to America. We all learned of American history. Our rights should not be compromised for the convenience of tourism or to silence those with differing views. I urge you to uphold the constitutional protections intended for all citizens, not just those currently in vogue, and reject this amendment. Thank you very much.
Susan Canary, freedom of speech.
Susan Canary. I'm here today not as a participant in the weekly protests, but as someone who cares deeply about the rights that protect all of us, regardless of where we stand. What is happening on the Point Brown median is not disorder. It is not a safety issue. It is not violence. It is not even disruption. It is expression, peaceful, consistent, and visible expression. And it seems visibility is your primary concern. But remember, in a democracy, visibility isn't a flaw to be hidden. It is the essential tool for accountability. This proposed ordinance cites safety and traffic concerns, yet offers no evidence that would justify restricting a fundamental constitutional right. Adding time and location restrictions does not enhance safety. It removes access to participation. You are being asked to solve a problem that has not been demonstrated to exist, and that should concern everyone in this room. Because when government begins limiting speech without clear, compelling justification, it sets a precedent, not just for one group, not just for one moment, but for anyone whose message becomes inconvenient. Today it may be progressives on a median. Tomorrow it could be anyone else, anywhere else, saying something someone in power would rather not hear. You should be very cautious about laws that restrict speech based not on behavior, but on discomfort. Because once we start down this road, the line between public safety and public suppression becomes very thin. And history shows it rarely stops where it begins. If you can restrict speech without evidence of harm, then what you're protecting isn't safety, it's silence. If this body cannot tolerate peaceful, visible dissent, then the issue before you tonight is not public safety. It is your relationship with democracy itself. The question before you is simple. Will you protect the right to be heard or choose the comfort of silence? Because in the end, history will not remember the discomfort that you avoided, only the rights you were willing to limit.
Kim Abgari, freedom of speech.
Good evening. Kim Abgari, resident of Ocean Shores. Before I moved to Western Washington, I lived in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Anyone who knows the city knows that it's one of the most popular vacation spots in the country. Beautiful scenery, 5-star hotels, great restaurants, and even the only golf course with a floating green in the United States. People also know that for years the area was home to the Aryan nations, and is still a place where many white supremacist and racist groups operate. These groups use their First Amendment rights and march downtown from time to time. While acknowledging that their presence could harm tourism, which is vital to their community, the city attempted to deny them a parade permit. This was taken to court, to federal court, interestingly, by the ACLU, which told them they could not deny their First Amendment rights. Is this what we want for Ocean Shores? will we encourage in tourism when the newspapers pick up the story that this city has been taken to court in order to ensure that our First Amendment rights are protected? Protests are not threatening anyone's safety. Protests are not scaring away tourists. If anything is hurting tourism, it is the economic hardships for local tourists and the unwelcoming attitude for foreign tourists caused by federal policies. If the city's goal is to encourage tourism, then let's spend the city's money on making the city more accessible and welcoming by adding public bathrooms and beautifying the city instead of spending it to fight the inevitable lawsuits that will occur should you continue trying to deny the citizens their constitutional right to free speech. True patriots protect the rights granted to us by the Constitution, even when we disagree with what others have to say. Going back to the beginning of my talk, I was appalled at what the white supremacists said and what they represented, but I also understood that they had the constitutional right to say it. Real Americans encourage each other to speak out for their beliefs, even if you don't agree with those beliefs. That's part of what has always made America great. As an American, the right to speak out against policies that lead to higher prices, worse inflation, and foreign wars is a constitutional right. In closing, I hope the Council makes the right decision and supports the rights of all of our citizens of Ocean Shores to exercise their First Amendment rights. Thank you.
Andrew McCarr, the definition of organizer in the proposed ordinance is unconstitutionally vague, and the restrictions on Point Brand Avenue fail to satisfy the public forum test for compelling government.
My name is Andrew Makar, citizen of this city. The United States Supreme Court in 1951 noted or stated that streets and parks are held in the public trust and have from time immemorial been used for the purposes of assembly, communicating thoughts between citizens, and discussing public questions. More recently, the Federal Circuit Court in Griffin v. Secretary of Veterans Affairs stated the test as any restriction must be narrowly drawn and serve a necessary and compelling government interest. I have seen reasons given for closing off that median on Point Brown and the traffic circle. That median on Point Brown is 25 feet across, and for at least two sections of it has a curb, which probably makes it safer than a sidewalk. I haven't seen any compelling government interest. What I've seen is breezy speculation. The traffic circle, I mean, you literally put a sidewalk around that thing. Now, as to the definition of an organizer, I'm not sure exactly who this applies to. I mean, if I say to a friend in an email that, hey, I'm going to go down and carry a sign at the if I go down in an email to a friend, say, hey, I'm going to go down for a No Kings rally, am I an organizer? I don't know. I think that's a vague term in the statute. I think there's little question that this ordinance was motivated by No Kings and related gatherings. I don't think that's going to be a very hard sell for a court. There's a history of prior animus between some of these people and the city that, as far as I can tell, resulted from an arbitrary and capricious actions without legal authority and a comical misapplication of law and fact. And the perception is that this is an attempt to create a facially neutral law and impermissible restriction on speech. I don't think that that's going to be a very hard case to make to a judge. I will note for the city that whoever were to bring a suit only has to present a prima facie case, and the burden is on the city to show that it has adequate grounds for its ordinance. It's not on the citizens.
That's time.
Thank you.
Rhonda Erlandson, Public Safety. What's that? Yeah. Oh, and please talk into the mic as best you can. Otherwise, the radio doesn't pick it up at home either.
Rhonda Erlinson, Ocean Shores resident. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. When we consider restricting any public activity due to safety issues, particularly First Amendment activity, we need to have valid evidence that those issues are indeed imminent threats. Whenever any of us go out in public, we expose ourselves to dangers of all kinds, not the least of which is being hit by a car. We trust that traffic laws minimize our risk and that police are present to issue citations when necessary. However, all too frequently, our city's officers are responding to emergencies with little, if any, time for preemptive traffic enforcement. Demonstrators must also adhere to safety measures as well, and we have been accused of all sorts of infractions. These actually amount to nothing more than hearsay. Organizers cannot deal with these accusations if we don't have proof of who committed the infraction or that it actually even occurred. Therefore, we must insist that valid statements from our accusers be properly filed. This includes accusations reportedly coming from respected business owners, none of whom have spoken to demonstrators or community organizers. If these accusations are to be used to support changes to the municipal code, the city must build a foundation of solid evidence to justify the need for its restrictions. Meanwhile, the proposed ordinance as written contains inconsistencies that make it difficult to understand how the city attorney allowed it to be released to the public in the first place. The result is that residents of Ocean Shores who generally keep to themselves are coming forward, truly alarmed by this proposal. What happens next is up to the mayor and the council. The city could be dragged into expensive litigation. As a taxpayer, I would rather see my dollars go towards solving real problems, like the need for sidewalks, beautification along Point Brown business section, and especially adding more officers to our police and fire departments. Finally, if this issue does move forward to a study session, it is vital that you ensure we do not have a repeat of the threatening environment that was present at the Sanctuary City discussion. Thank you.
Katie Wallace, Agenda Item 8, Amendment 524.
Hi, I'm Katie Wallace. I've lived here in Ocean Shores for about 10 years now, and I have attended some of these rallies as a protester. And I guess my fear here, I have three things I want to say, is that I did read through the whole amendment, and I believe that it's unconstitutional, and if we move forward with it, the city's open to a lawsuit, obviously, and we'll waste all of our taxpayers' money on this. And so there's that. Number two is I feel like this was all brought forward because of a story about the business that I work at, that Ocean Beach Roasters, that may or may not have happened, but that it's bad for tourism here. Overwhelmingly, of the customers that we've had from out of town have been more in support of the protests than not. And I understand that people in town are upset by seeing something that they don't agree with. But once again, that's our constitutional right to say something about it. And the story that was put forward about veterans or people at JBLM were attacked by our protesters and called murderers or some such thing. Overwhelmingly, again, veterans that I've talked to have said that you're trying to tell me that soldiers came down here and they were yelled at by a bunch of little old ladies, and they're like, we're not going to Ocean Shores ever again. We're scared now, you know. So that that story doesn't hold water, and we can't get one person to back it up. And I know I called, a couple other people called JBLM, their public information officer, and they denied knowing anything about this story. And my third point is the jurisdiction ends right at the gates. If you want us out there at Hogan's Corner or somewhere less safe protesting, I guess that's what we'll have to do. Thanks for your time.
Diana Wentland, Ordinance Amendment 524.
Hello. First, I'd like to say that every protest I've been to in this city has been positive, respectful, uplifting. Being around like-minded people who care about our country and our Constitution is powerful. It is helpful to express our grievances over the way this administration is treating people, as well as expressing our disappointment and anger over the huge amount of corruption we see. Finding out that our city wants to curtail our First Amendment rights is very disappointing. Protesting the government is as American as apple pie. This amendment to the original ordinance is sneaky as well, because you don't have to go through the long, normal process of creating a new ordinance. You just have to get enough votes to make this pass. Creating a ton of barriers to the protests is a major overreach. The Supreme Court has ruled that any government regulation to the First Amendment rights must be narrowly tailored, which means that the laws must be written precisely to place as few restrictions as possible to First Amendment liberties. Our city has proposed that groups over 75 people must get permits. The permits must get approved. We must get insurance for up to $1 million. No protesting on the medians, or on Chancellor Mare, or on Point Brown, or on any of the main roads. No protesting on Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. The list goes on and on and on. It has been said that it is for our safety. If that's true, then why are churches and schools exempt? Is it okay for them to be in harm's way? This doesn't make sense unless you're trying to stop protesting altogether through an amendment on a current ordinance with too many barriers, which, from what I understand, is overreach.
Becky Carrier, Amendment Ordinance 5.24.
I'm Dr. Rebecca Carrier. I reside at 708 Mount Olympus Avenue Southeast in Ocean Shores. Honorable Mayor, City Council, and most importantly, Chief Vesco, thank you for this opportunity. I want to welcome you, Chief Vesco. You have a phenomenal background, and my remarks here today are very protective of you. My background is I have written policy. I have a strong policy writing background. My experience include writing policy for the United Nations, the states of Idaho, Indiana, and Illinois. I have something about I-states, and several counties, as well as cities and school boards. 2 pieces of research are required for any kind of legitimate policy. 1, statutory research, and 2, case law. So this particular revision presents problems for the statutory clause, it presents problems for the case law clause, and it presents problems for enforcement. Let me start with statutory problem. I'll cover 3 issues. First, this revision constitutes substantial changes to the original ordinance. The way that it is presented is an all or nothing package. Rather than repealing the ordinance and then substituting a new ordinance, it asks that we amend things. So if one amendment does not go through, all amendments must fail. This is a waste of legislative time. 2, the Agenda Council meeting report shows that Chief Vesco is bringing this revision to the council. That's an inappropriate use of our chief's time. And if it is true, it puts her in a vulnerable position. Already, rumors are flying that she supports Christian nationalism and every imaginable sin that we can come up with for the First Amendment violations. Let's move this to a legislative person who goes through our legal counsel, writes an appropriate statute if we want to regulate the expression of free speech. 3, RCW 3523-211 states that no ordinance shall contain more than one subject. That must be clearly expressed in the title. The title of this amendment is, in fact, special events. There is constitutional law that establishes a distinction between expressive events and the use of special events. So First Amendment rights are protected by expressive events. These two things cannot be contained under the same set of amendments. Let's move to case law problems. First off, we have to look at how we establish this. So if we substitute the word because for whereas, we'll find that we did this because
That's time.
Ocean Shores.
That is
sorry.
time.
I will file the rest of these remarks with the council.
I believe it's Pam, and I think that's an H, and I apologize. Strayther? Strayther?
Yeah, I'm Pam Strutker. You almost got it right. It's cool. Yeah, I'm married to that Spitfire that just came up here. And speaking as a vet and as a public servant and as a patriot of the United States here, I've fought and I gave my youth to protecting all of our amendment rights and our Constitution. And it feels very blatant in evidence and in intent against those tenets. I don't think I can be any more succinct or more detailed in all of the evidence that everybody has already presented here, but I just want to add my voice to the negative wish to have this go forward. Thank you.
All right, so I got to be honest, my native Romanian speaker wants to pronounce this Dacia messing, but I'm probably sure it's Dacia messing.
It's Deja. Okay, Deja Messing. I'm against this ordinance in its current form. During the Public Safety Committee meeting on April 21st, 2026, Chief Vesco stated this revision was specifically the result of supposed safety issues she had observed and received feedback on. This immediately creates a viewpoint discrimination issue for the entire ordinance, and it will not survive strict scrutiny. There have been no issues for a year, yet you are creating a restrictions based on hypothetical issues, violating McCullen v. Coakley 2014 with no new compelling justifications. You're also doing this, which is contrary to Klein v. City of San Clemente out of the Ninth Circuit in 2011, and creating a sudden restriction against previously tolerated speech, raising viewpoint discrimination red flags under Church of Scientology versus the City of Hope 2006. There are multiple references to the discretion of the police chief, city engineer, or designees with no objective standards. This runs afoul of the prohibition against unbridled discretion established in Shuttlesworth v. Birmingham, 1969. The lack of objective standards throughout the ordinance brings the void for vagueness doctrine established in Granted v. City of Rockford, 1972 into play. Making failure to obtain a permit under this ordinance a Class B offense is disproportionate to the offense. Threat of 90 days in jail creates an impermissible chilling effect as held in Shuttlesworth v. Birmingham. Violation section leaves no exception for spontaneous speech demonstrations, which creates a conflict and confusion with the earlier exemption for spontaneous demonstrations. This is also addressed in the Shuttlesworth decision. Lastly, simply stating something will be narrowly tailored does not meet the standard that protest restrictions be narrowly tailored as set forth in Ward v. Rock against Racism, 1989. This is the free state of Washington, not the fascist Republic of Florida.
Jerry Exum proposed changes to the municipal code.
Hello, Jerry Eckram, Ocean Shores resident going on 3 years. And I'm pleased that this amendment is being tabled. But I think you've already seen how concerning it is to many residents here. And while it's clearly aimed at restricting the effectiveness of the protests and the conduct of the Trump administration, the net effect of the proposal is an assault on the freedom of speech and freedom of assembly for all citizens of Ocean Shores. And there are a number of things about it that are, I think, ill-considered. Among the most excessive and ill-considered aspect of the proposed revision is the banning of the assemblies from the median around Point Brown Avenue. Experience has clearly demonstrated that that's the safest place for the people assembled and the least restrictive and offering the least difficulty for passing motorists. Another ill-considered aspect of the proposal is the banning of these events on Saturdays. A good many of the residents of Ocean Shores are hardworking people who hold 9 to 5 Monday through Friday jobs, and certainly they have earned the right to take part in the democratic process on their day off from work. I certainly hope that if this goes forward, it will be with more consideration and investigation and consideration of the assumptions that it's based on. I do hope that it stays tabled and will pass by as an honest, well-intended, bad idea.
Joe Hauser, Freedom of Assembly.
Sylvia Fain here. Joe Hauser had to leave and asked me to speak for her. One thing that I hadn't said, and I am going to announce.
Sylvia, just 1 second. Let me make sure we can do this legally.
Okay.
Sorry, I apologize. Is that allowed? No. Okay.
Not
Sorry.
allowed?
No, you gotta.
Okay.
You gotta go to Ringer. Sorry. And I do apologize again. I don't know if this is Fred Yon or Fred Lon. Or how about Fred Lowe? Or you? Or possibly you.
Very simple.
All right.
First off, I'd like to thank all the residents that have come out today. You've been very eloquent. I am not. I am a very base male person, and I find this frustrating beyond belief. I have spent years in the military. I have fought for the country. All my fellow veterans have fought for the right to protest. People, I don't understand why we even have this amendment coming in. This is just complete BS, fascist crap that's coming down from the top of the entire United States government. We have elected a con man that has created nothing but havoc for our country. Right now, I'm an independent. Don't get me wrong. I have voted for Republicans. I've voted for Democrats. I voted for independents. I vote for who I believe is the best person for the job. Right now, I hate to say this, but Frank, I don't think you're doing your job. Other than that, I'm pissed. This should never go forward, and please don't let it go forward.
Jenny Kate, item number 8, protest rules.
Hello, my name is Jenny Kate, and I'm a resident of Ocean Shores. I thank the council members for their decision to table this proposed ordinance amendments to Chapter 5.24 of the Ocean Shores Municipal Code, although I would have called it a replacement of this chapter, as the proposed amendments completely rewrote this chapter. I have talked to a few lawyers, and they have assured me that many sections of this amendment are basically unconstitutional and could be open to challenge in a court for several reasons. Number one is one of the things that hasn't been brought up tonight a lot, but it's mentioned a lot in the amendments, is that a lot of this applies to groups with 75 participants and over 75 participants. I feel that that's targeted at the group I belong to, which is Indivisible Ocean Shores, since we're the only group in Ocean Shores that regularly holds rallies with over 75 participants. Another thing about this is that you cannot lawfully ban all protest rallies on Point Brown Boulevard leading into our city, which this ordinance would do by limiting rallies to sidewalks and pedestrian ways which do not exist on Point Brown Boulevard, and prohibiting them on the median on the pretense of it being a safety regulation. The median has been a forum for our protests, peaceful protests, since 2017, and we have no major safety hazards that these rallies have caused. We have always informed the police in advance in writing of the dates and times of the rallies with my name and phone number listed. And people have made comments about the traffic circle. We are never in the traffic circle. We have found that the 1 hour between the hour, we hold our rallies the 1 hour between hours of 1 and 2 p.m., usually on the weekends. This new ordinance would have made it impossible to hold rallies during the time frame when we can reach the widest possible audience, as the audience banned demonstrations on major roads anytime on the weekends between 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. I know that the council has moved to take this item off the agenda for tonight, but as you can see, this is still a very serious matter for many of us who live in Ocean Shores. We look forward to working together so that citizens are not deprived of their constitutional rights for free speech and the right to assemble.
Lynn Burry, protest agenda item.
My name is Lynn Burry. Can you hear me? Okay. It's been a long time since I was in a band, so my mic technique might be a little off. I've lived in Ocean Shores for about 8 years, and I try to attend or view all the Ocean Shores council meetings, and primarily so I can be a educated voter. And this is the first time I've ever felt compelled to speak, and I'm happy to see so many people here that are like-minded, that are here to speak for free speech, because that's what this is all about. And if I may, I'd like to just read this as a reminder to everybody. The First Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America. Congress shall pass no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So that part we might have to come back to later, the way things are going in this country. But the one that's valuable tonight is there will be no abridging of the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people to peacefully assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. So this amendment to an existing ordinance seems to specifically target protesters. And what it is doing is actually targeting free speech. the free speech of everybody in this city, the free speech of the mayor, the council, everyone in this room and outside of this room. You know, a lot of people have spoke eloquently about the legality of all this. And I would bet my Social Security check, and I'm not a gambling man, that this will go to court if it continues. I'm grateful it's tabled so there can be some more consideration to this, but I also heard somebody say they would like to discuss this behind closed doors. And I would like to say that this Constitution goes behind closed doors. It guaranteed that it goes behind closed doors. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Mary Mitchell, Public Safety.
My name is Mary Mitchell, and I'm a resident of Ocean Shores. I participate in every protest that I'm able to. I've participated in all of the large ones. We have never had any sort of an incident. We've had a lot of negativity given to us, people driving by flipping us off, people trying to intimidate us with their vehicles, but nothing has ever happened. We have always been safe. During the larger protests, we have a safety team. We try to keep people back away from the streets, off the street, and to be safe. One of our safety team members is trained in first aid. At our last, she informed us there was no need for her. There's never been an accident around us. Nothing has ever happened. At the end of our protest, we police the area for any trash. We leave it many times better than we found it. I want you to know that I do agree. I agree with Jenny Kate, Lillian Broadbent, and many of the speakers. And I ask everybody that if this is passed, are you willing for your tax dollars to go to defend the city in this asinine amendment? Thank you.
Taylor Priest, Public Safety.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. My name is Taylor Priest. I've been a resident of Ocean Shores for 8 years. I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to share concerns about the sudden and extreme response to the fabricated concerns about public safety put forth and supported by Councilmember Dooley and the new Ocean Shores Police Chief. Reckless driving, speeding, and individuals who disrupt city council meetings with threatening behavior with no apparent fear of armed officers standing by and no reason to think the mayor will stop them, these are real indicators of public safety issues. Having been at nearly every protest and not seen Chief Vesco present ever, I wonder how she could possibly have cause for real concern or knowledge about it. Yet Councilmember Dooley, in his Public Safety Committee report, states that Chief Vesco told the committee she has made observations and presumably had enough serious public safety concerns reported to make a legal change impacting First Amendment freedoms here. The new chief has had every opportunity to reach out to mitigate any supposed cause of concern for public safety with group leaders who are well known to our mayor and have introduced themselves to her. That has not happened. To interfere with the First Amendment, as the chief and Councilmember Dooley appear willing to do quite casually, a considerably more serious threat would need to exist. If public safety was really the concern, this proposed ordinance, suddenly announced by Chief Vesco and just as quickly publicized and stamped with seal of approval by Councilmember Dooley, sought to alleviate, officers would employ radar guns to slow down traffic, and not just from 1 to 2 on Saturdays. No matter where I'm at on that strip of Point Brown, drivers seem to regard it as a make-your-own speed limit zone. The proposed revision is an insincere political move that will cost the city a serious lawsuit and public embarrassment that might well make potential visitors think twice about coming here. But this is put forth by the same crowd claiming peaceful demonstrations send tourists flocking away. Seems a bit, inconsistent. It is unjustified, and the manner of its presentation was so amateurish as to be shameful to those behind it. The fact that the brand new police chief hired by the mayor with no consultation from council is involved is deeply disturbing. It feels, frankly, as sneaky and underhanded as the lack of transparency in the chief's hiring. Councilmember Dooley needs to be informed that social media is very public.
Can I make a point of order? No? All right.
Angela Reneker changes to public rallies.
I'm Angela Reneker, local pastor, resident here at Ocean Shores for 7 years, but I'm here as a regular citizen who has attended a number of rallies and have found them to be a source of community, encouragement, joy, and peace. I can attest that I've seen no safety issues whatsoever as far as concern for how tourists are going to view these rallies. Well, my first No Kings rally here in town, I was joined by a number of tourists who were eager to join us in said rally and have encountered others since then. I value this opportunity to participate as a citizen at a time of great anxiety and pressure. I have many clergy friends in Minneapolis and St. Paul to whom I am very close and know that they have been on the front lines of many protests, and we view protests more as an issue of protection, a protection of democracy, protection of the rights of the most vulnerable in our society. And I am praying to God to give me the strength to keep a civil tongue in my mouth. Because to quote Martin Luther, not only are we not to lie, but we're not supposed to slander, libel, or betray our neighbor, but explain their actions in the kindest possible way. I, however, found that this amendment seems to me to be duplicitous. It seems to be sneaky, and there might have been good intentions behind it, but I question its timing. Thank you.
John Arnold, support and action of City Council.
Hello, friends. I'm John Arnold. We've lived in Ocean Shores since 2006, and I realize that's 20 years ago already. I come before you to ask for your leadership and action to support and sustain our community in a couple of key areas. One, we need innovative and sound solutions directed to our streets and roadways. We are again beginning to see signs of cordwood ripples, dips, and irregularities on several streets. Examples are Ocean Shores Boulevard, Dolphin. You all can name many more. We do not need nor want another LID. We don't want another LID. Number two, we need your financial prowess and effectiveness. We ask to see clear evidence of substantial financial reserves in areas like streets and other areas that require frequent repair and renewal. Number three, we need your openness and research to support, sustain, and improve our 26 miles of fresh waterways. For example, we need a fresh set of eyes look at the water flow and quality of Bass Canal, and perhaps a look at increasing the input flow to the system. A fourth item, we need your vision and drive to grow and support our local airport, to add an automated weather and basic GPS approach to benefit visitors and neighbors alike, as well as emergency airlift operations. And lastly, we need your efforts as a team to pull Ocean Shores together and support all citizens equally toward common human goals. In closing, a quote from Valerie Kerr, a civil rights attorney and activist. See no stranger, only parts of yourself that you don't yet know.
Jan Guertin, proposed protest ordinance.
Mayor, Council, my name is Jan Gurton, and I've been an Ocean Shores resident for over 20 years. I love living here, but in those 20 years, I've seen some pretty harrowing things, such as trying to turn the Weatherwax into a golf course and forcing us to remove the word democracy from a registered to vote banner. Excuse me. But this proposed city ordinance designed to abrogate our First Amendment rights to protest is a bridge too far. Please don't do this. It will end badly. Thank you.
Lori Bullock, Safety Measures Amendment, Free Speech.
Mayor, council members, thank you for having me tonight. I'm going to give you my Mary Poppins version because all of my good friends here have already said anything that I wanted to say before, and I really appreciate all of you. But I'm just here to talk about the amendment, and I understand that the city wants to keep people safe. We all want that. But I'm worried that this new rule may go too far. It may limit something very important, our right to speak and our right to gather peacefully. The first rule says that it's only if 75 or more people gather, it becomes a special event. This means permits, fees, and even insurance may be required. For many people, that's not just possible. Speaking out in public should not depend on how much money you have or how much paperwork you can fill out. Second, the rule gives a lot of power to decide when free speech is allowed. Words like unsafe, interference are not very clear. That can make people unsure about what they are allowed to say or do, and when they can do it. They choose to stay silent at that point. Third, there are many places where people may not be allowed to stand or gather. These areas are not always clearly defined. Sidewalks and public spaces have always been places where people can speak freely. If those spaces become limited, it becomes much harder for people to be heard. Fourth, there are time limits that may stop people from speaking in the evening or during busy times, but sometimes those are the only times people can come out and be able to speak. Fifth, there is cost for things such as insurance or city services. Even that seems fair on paper. In regular life, it can keep regular people from speaking at all. I also want to share that Washington state law gives very strong protections to free speech. Our courts have said that even if free speech is inconvenient, it should be allowed. Many people find us inconvenient. When all of these rules are put together, permit, cost, time, limits, and unclear boundaries, it may make people feel like they need permission just to speak. And that is how our rights are meant to work. Or that's not how our rights are meant to work. I kindly ask all of you to take another look at this ordinance. Maybe it can be made simpler and clearer and still keeping people safe. Thank you very much for listening and for your service to the community. I also have to say one more thing. I've been threatened many times in this room at this city council meeting. I have never felt in danger out there on Point Brown.
Diana Barron, change. Try one more time. Diana Barron, change. Okay, back, then we can go to that. Maria Van Horn, Municipal Code, Chapter 524.
Maria Van Horn, representing Indivisible Ocean Shores. Indivisible is a bipartisan nationwide organization that from the start in 2016 is committed to nonviolence. They provide guidelines and training for safety, security, and de-escalation methods for potential confrontations. Their values have been our guiding light. Our chapter has been a positive resource for citizens to express their views and concerns about our democracy. We have a multi-year record of nonviolent organized rallies. We have always provided information regarding our events to local law enforcement. Listen to their concerns about safety, which is why we relocated our events to the southern meridian on Point Brown, which has protective curbing and a clear pedestrian access. The former police chief was concerned about rumors, polite word for lies, about our plans to disrupt last year's Flag Day parade. Our leadership met with her and debunked all of the rumors. We shared that we had no intention of harming a community tradition. We had purposely changed our regular start time of 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. to avoid any logistical conflicts. Turned out to be our largest event, almost 900 unpaid participants. Many visitors to our town attended from North Dakota, Florida, Montana, and beyond. Many locals attended both events and were grateful we changed the time. The police chief attended that event and said we managed the crowd excellently. A family of 4 drove by, saw our rally, immediately bought sign-making supplies, prepared their messages, and came back and joined us. Their 2 young kids had been disappointed they were missing the gathering in Seattle, so they were thrilled that they could participate while on vacation. There are more and more stories that happen at every one of our rallies. Our rallies are joyful. People are not intimidated by bunnies, frogs, and dinosaurs. They appreciate the precautions we take with a bullhorn to remind people to step back from the curb. We have up to 6 designated trained safety officers in yellow vests with walkie-talkies in case anyone needs assistance. Several businesses have welcomed us to use their bathrooms. Many local shops and restaurants have shared with us that their foot traffic has increased positively during our rallies. We limit events to 1 hour. In the past 2 years, that is 6 hours, hardly a detriment to local businesses. We always clean up any debris in the meridian before we leave. We have committed no violations causing a police report to be filed. We collect food for the food bank, which they are grateful for, almost 1,000 pounds and $400 towards their cause. Our driving forces are to protect everyone's First Right Amendments. When did our rights become special events? Protect all our citizens and visitors, and provide benefit to our community.
That's time.
I'm so proud of everybody here tonight.
Joan,
I've never been prouder.
Maria.
Joan Morabito, changes in rally rules.
Hello, I'm Joan Morabito, a resident here in Ocean Shores. I came here. Actually, I got tipped off first what was going on by Kurt Dooley. He informs people what's going on with the council, and I thought, oh my! And then I heard from Indivisible that with our new police chief coming in, there's also, and I'm paraphrasing things. I'm not. This is how I took it. With the new police chief coming in, there's going to be new rules for protesting or rallying. It's like, why? Everything's fine. I mean, we go, we have our signs, we've got our rights, we follow the law, and then all of a sudden, there's this amendment. I want to know who the author is. And I came here, I was a little disappointed that you tabled it because I wanted to hear from council what all this is about. I looked for it online and I couldn't find it. Maybe it was just me, but I couldn't find it. This is a really nice place to live. And when we start getting our rights chipped away, it affects everybody. Everybody. So I'm just here to say I'm really glad I live here because these people are phenomenal. Thank you. Kurt Dooley, you are too.
Okay. So that concludes in-person public comment. We have 2 online public comments about this item. Mike McNett, are you there?
Yes, I am. I'm just making sure I'm unmuted.
You're good to go.
Okay, thank you. Mike McNett, Bass Avenue Northeast. I was very concerned when I read the proposed ordinance revisions regarding the right to protest. It's clear that this is not a balanced approach to public safety. It looks instead like a targeted attack intended to limit or deny First Amendment rights to one specific group and its participants. These new restrictions would apply primarily to one organization, Indivisible Ocean Shores. That is the group that frequently brings 75 or more people to demonstrate on Point Brown Road. Despite any disclaimers, this is an infringement of constitutional rights based on political viewpoint. Some in city government simply don't agree with the message and you don't want to see it. There's some context to this, some background. The mayor has previously, as someone mentioned a moment ago, infringed on the free speech of indivisible activities when he declared the word democracy to be partisan and closed the group's voting registration table. These new restrictions are especially troubling in this context of an existing pattern. The claim that the wide grassy median on Point Brown is not a public area suitable and safe for pedestrians is more than a stretch. The median is regularly the site of numerous signs and promotions for events, so this cannot legitimately be an issue of visual distraction. It's a wide space, accessible by crosswalk and protected in part by trees. Additional locations are limited also by the revisions, including all arterial roads, driveways, unofficial driveways covered by the terms ingress and egress to businesses, intersections, the traffic circle, and possibly even sidewalks, depending on whether they're 5 feet wide or not, or who judges there to be room to pass safely, leaving almost no publicly visible space where protests can occur. The limitation on the hours during which demonstrations will be allowed is extreme and is another infringement on the freedom of speech and assembly. It is so broad that speech is prohibited during weekends and on special event days, high traffic days, as well as for long periods of time on each weekday. Together, the time and location restrictions create an almost absolute prohibition of any demonstration. Adding further chilling effect are the unusual requirements for a $1 million insurance policy or a very excessive indemnification agreement, are required to add and pay for police staffing, as well as the city inserting its own judgment through a permitting process and fees yet to be determined. It's not for the government to decide who will be allowed to express their grievances against the government, nor to discourage speech by creating unnecessary additional obstacles. Individually and in combination, the new restrictions would all but completely close down demonstrations. This is contrary to the rights granted by the First Amendment, and the City of Ocean Shores should not repress any political viewpoint or deprive citizens of the rights of assembly and freedom.
Time.
Thank you.
And then last online public comment, Don Williams. Don, can you hear me?
Yes. How we doing?
You're good. You're good to go.
Thank you very much. And interesting evening all the way around. I'm a little bit disappointed that this was not allowed for come before the council and discuss it, because that's what they're supposed to be doing. I don't know, all the legalese I've heard tonight. I can't imagine that this hasn't come up in many, many places, and that an ordinance like this would obviously have to be scrutinized. I would be surprised if it hadn't been looked at by some legal area. Nevertheless, it was tabled, and I am sorry that it was not discussed by the council, because maybe some of the things in it are important and could be changed and make a better ordinance. But folks, ordinances don't come before the city council out of the thin air. They go through an agenda setting process. And 3 of the council members tonight who tabled this item were at that agenda setting meeting. I mean, I can see them. Look at page 13 of your agenda. If this is properly minutes, council members Cyrus, Taylor, and Klein were at the agenda setting meeting. I'd like to ask them, how did this get on the agenda? After spending almost 2 hours of my time watching all this, I'd rather be spending my time watching the city conduct important business rather than seeing something that obviously is not going to go anywhere. So I'm disappointed that it was not discussed, but yet it got on the agenda, and 3 council members that tabled it apparently allowed it to go. So let's hear from them. Why was it even on the agenda if it's so bad? So those are my comments, and I hope you all have a great time. But spending 2 hours on this and not on legitimate citizen business or council business, to me, is a disappointment. Thank you.
Well, that concludes comment, unless you did not sign up and you wanted to speak on it and it got moved. Yes, you with your hand up in the back. Go ahead and come on up.
Hello, I am Nancy Osborne, resident of Ocean Shores. Most everything I had to say has already been said today, but I had a couple of observations. And one of the things that I'd like to point out is everyone keeps talking around the fact that you can't do this. This is an infringement of our rights. That's very true. And the reason that this doesn't show up in city ordinances is because there's a clear distinction between what is considered special events and what is considered protected events. And what you've tried to do, whoever tried to draft this, is put protected events under the heading of special events. It doesn't work that way. The law says it doesn't work that way. There's nothing that you can do to change that. I'm really proud of everybody who showed up here tonight to speak out, to say, look, we have rights. I'm disappointed that there is an issue on the agenda at all that had no purpose other than to further divide this town. I keep hearing from this dais that you want unity. You want to work around the political differences, and yet you create, this has the potential to create a huge bomb in this town. It's not okay. Don't do it. I have a printout from, this is called, what is the name of this? MSRC, and it's a nonprofit organization in the state of Washington that will help organizations, municipals, come up with codes, and it helps them walk through the legalities of everything. And in this are 20 different city ordinances that deal with special events. And every single one of them is very clear on separating out protected events. I recommend that you consider talking to this organization. And if you want, you can have a copy of this printout. Thank you for your time.
All right, we got some, go ahead. No. You can go next if you want to go up there, Shannon.
Ann Reese, I'm a resident of Ocean Shore since 2019. I'm not going to specifically speak an opinion for or against this, but I would like to read something from ACLU Washington. Know Your Rights Guide, Protests. Guide covers the legal protections you have while protesting or otherwise exercising your free speech rights in public. Although some of the legal principles are firmly established, as with many areas of law, free speech is a complex and continually developing issue. Generally speaking, you are free to exercise your right to protest, but government may impose restrictions if you are infringing on the rights or safety of others. It goes on to say, can the government restrict where, when, and how protests may take place? Answer, yes. The government may impose reasonable restrictions on time, place, and manner of speech, but these restrictions cannot be based on content of that speech. That said, if we're really concerned with safety, I come from the DC area, they put up barriers. Whether you have a sidewalk or not, they put up barriers to help protect the protesters as well as the traffic. The other thing is let's take this room, for example. There is a code requirement on the number of occupancy that can be in this room. I heard today that they had up to 900 or maybe more than 900 protesters at one point in time during one of the events. I think that probably exceeded what would be the area capacity of the median within those curb areas. It's just a consideration, but there are ways that are reasonable, fair, and without prejudice of content. Thank you.
All right, go ahead, Shannon. Somebody else want to speak out there that did not speak? Right, you can be after Shannon. I just want to line some people up. So,
Shannon Rubin. I'm general manager of the Canterbury Inn, and I now also live here most of the time. Some of what I had said about it impacting tourism was taken out of context, and I want to clarify that because I actually think it's kind of chicken poop that you guys didn't, that you put it on the agenda and then took it off. And it's not because I'm for it. I don't agree with any signs that have foul language on them, even if it's your right, during peak tourist times. I'm just asking in a respectful, nice manner that some people don't like their children exposed to that. But that's your right if you want to do it. I do think that it does impact tourism somewhat. There are people that are for it and there are people that are against it, just like everything else in this world. It's my right to think that. Just like it's their right to protest the things that they want to protest. I'm just asking from a tourism standpoint if we could try and find a happy medium where tourism is happy, residents are happy, and not everyone wants to come at each other with pitchforks. It's not a comfortable position to be in when you get attacked on social media for your views, because I sat here and I listened to many people in this room who I normally would never agree with, who I thought had very valid points. Lillian being one of them. That was like a new ordinance. It wasn't a rewrite. I wanted to thank those people that I normally don't agree with because I thought that you were elegantly spoken and that you had very valid points. I'm just asking that if someone differs from you, like if I bring up tourism, that you respect my viewpoint too. It doesn't mean that you're wrong or I'm wrong. It just means we have a difference of opinion. And in this particular case, since you've tabled it, my suggestion to you would to be actually to throw it in the trash because all it's going to do is divide the town more. That is very clear based on what I saw here today. And if you ever expect it to die down, bringing it forward will not do that.
All right, go ahead. We have anybody else that wants to speak that hasn't spoke? Yes, one. You mind getting in line? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having this meeting. I'm Michelle Carlson, a new resident to Ocean Shores. I was very grateful when I got here and I learned from the complaints about the protesters that there was protesting happening here and I wouldn't need to drive all the way to Olympia to get to do what I'd been doing in Bellingham before I moved here. If safety were the real concern, there would be more tickets being issued on Point Brown. During protests, not during protests. People are exceeding the speed limit. They see 2 lanes going south, 2 lanes going north, and they think it's a highway. That's not safe. It's not the people in the median, it's the cars going over 25. Same with the people cutting across the median before their business and going in the wrong lanes to get to a parking lot. So if safety is really the issue, there's a lot of things that can be done. Thank you.
All right, next up, anybody else? Is Matt going to be the last?
Oh God, no pressure.
I guess he will be. All right, Matt, go ahead.
Everyone has said everything already, but I'm disappointed about the city even considering this ordinance. Not only is it flying in the face of the Constitution and is a gross violation of our First Amendment rights, it's just plain wrong. If this goes forward, then we're taking a huge leap backwards, back to the time where the city was passing things constantly, only to open themselves to lawsuits. The prevailing opinion of this city from other people in Washington is that this city loves to lose lawsuits. If this goes forward, I will be disappointed in the city as a whole. Someone who maybe lives on spite and has more money than sense might want to fund the lawyers challenging this gross violation of our First Amendment rights. Maybe it would be the same someone who also lights over $20,000 on literal fire every year to do a fireworks show for the community. Or maybe the same someone would end up buying a large plot on the main drag and start hosting weekly parties with signs. Wouldn't that be something?
So that ends public comment. We're going to take a 10-minute break. All right, we're going to start the meeting back up. city administrator, who's supposed to be up next. All right, so next up, we're going to have staff reports, and we're going to start with our city administrator, Scott Anderson.
All right, and I'd anticipated a little public comment, so I didn't want to have a long staff report tonight. So I will just read you this. It's just a public service announcement. It is the Mark Swanson 19th Annual Ocean Shores Elks Youth Fishing Derby. This will be Saturday, May 9th at North Bay Park from 8 to 12. And there is no entry fee. The derby is open to all kids 17 and under. And I will save the rest of what I was going to say for the next council meeting.
All right. Kurt, why don't you start us off?
I attended the Public Safety Committee, and police reported a 25% increase in traffic accidents compared to this time last year, along with increased enforcement activity. Fire department reported steady call volume and continued progress toward opening the South Fire Station, and emergency management is actively developing several planning documents. And finally, at that meeting, the city administrator noted ongoing changes on Damon Point and that work continues with state partners on funding for tsunami towers. Oh, and I signed warrants.
All right, thanks. Richard.
Thank you. All of the liaison assignments that I have, they did not meet since the last meeting, so I have nothing else to say. Thank you.
Lisa Scott.
I attended Public Works. We talked about the agenda item that's coming before you tonight, item number 10. And then we also talked about the grant that we submitted for the park through outdoor recreation and conservation. So we're excited about that, and just about projects coming up this summer.
All right, Denise.
I also signed warrants. Today, the LTAC committee met earlier, and we reviewed 12 new applications for funding. Our recommendations will be coming to the City Council at our next meeting on May 12th. And I did attend agenda review. And if I had seen the ordinance prior to when you all saw it, I would have voted against bringing it forward. One of the things that we are going to discuss on our upcoming council study session is putting ordinances on the agenda prior to any council member seeing them.
All right. Allison.
I also attended agenda setting, and thank you, Denise. I was going to address that also. You know, a lot of times items come to the agenda setting and it's generalized and we don't know the details. And with like ordinances we're having tonight, and we have at most meetings, we don't see them in detail until you see them when they are published. I also attended Public Safety and Public Works, and I did zoom in a little bit on the LTAC to observe that today.
Lisa Griebel.
Thank you, Mayor. I also attended the Public Works Committee, and I did want to mention that our Public Works Director did talk about some upcoming requests that will come to the Transportation Benefit District in regards to some street repairs.
All right, Tom.
I attended agenda setting. I also attended public safety, and I've also had met with Frank. So,
all right, that's the last for council liaison reports. I have a short report on May 18th at noon. There's going to be a ribbon cutting for the new clinic. And they tell me that they're going to be open that week sometime, maybe Wednesday is what the hospital said. So there'll be an open house, so people will be able to go in and, you know, walk around and check things out. So that'll be May 18th at noon. And the clinic, if you don't know where it's at the east end of the old ACE building. And that's all I got to say. Consent agenda. Can we get a motion to approve? Yes, Denise?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, unanimous, thank you. All right, we have no old business. We're new business, item number 9, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Ocean Shores, Washington, establishing the fee for domestic animal trapping permits pursuant to Chapter 8.20 of the Ocean Shores Municipal Code, and that's presented by our City Administrator, Scott Anderson.
Right. Good evening, council, public. This should be one of the easiest ordinances that we've ever passed, or sorry, one of the easiest resolutions we've ever passed. And the reason that we're, as we know, this relates to domestic animal trapping, just so everyone's familiar with that. It's for pets. It's the annual license fee for that. And the reason that we're bringing that back separate from the ordinance, the resolution, is because this way, when we update our fees, they're all tied to general resolutions rather than the ordinance, so we don't have to amend every ordinance that we do. We agreed when we passed this ordinance, the ordinance, that the fee would be $50 for an annual permit. That's really all this is setting a resolution acknowledging that when you get your domestic pet trapping license or your permit, that this will it'll cost you $50 a year. That's all it is.
All right, do we have any public comment? Seeing none. Council, any comments? Yes, Richard?
So this is a little bit off subject, but it has everything to do with the trapping ordinance itself. Apparently, there has been some misinformation posted on social media that this trapping ordinance is allowing crushing type of traps for animals. The ordinance specifically says all animals will be trapped in a humane fashion, and the only exception to that are traditional rat and mouse traps. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to dispel that misinformation.
All right, thanks. Lisa?
I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve the resolution of the City Council of the City of Ocean Shores, Washington, establishing the fee for domestic animal trapping permits pursuant to Chapter 8.20 of the Ocean Shores Municipal Code, OSMC.
Second.
All right, we have a second. Anybody else want to comment on it? Yes, Lisa Griebel.
Thank you, Mayor. And Scott, are you feeling confident that the $50 will cover the administrative costs? Because I know they have to initially examine the trap, and then anytime they move the trap, they have to be notifying people about where the trap goes. So I just want to make sure we're confident that will cover the costs.
Rarely do things always cover the cost in this. It really that's a depend situation. Are we trapping 1 or 2 animals a year? Are we trapping 20 or 30? I can say this. The good thing about doing this by resolution is if we find it's really not covering the cost, we can bring it back and change it quickly. I don't know if this is, I know that this primarily applies to a single individual who does this, that has both the traps and the license for it to recover those. I'll have to wait and see how many of those annually that she ends up doing.
All right, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? All right, unanimous, thank you. Next, we have a request of the City Council of the City of Ocean Shores, Washington, awarding a change order to Aquatechnex to perform alum treatment in the freshwater ways in 2026. And Sarah Logan's going to present that.
Bear with me, I'm way out of my element. So as everybody has been made aware, they're working on different things when it comes to the fresh waterways and how to clean those out, and especially in the impacted areas. Our fresh waterways have suffered from harmful algae blooms, from cyanobacteria. Most summers that are toxic, those are the ones that the city will post about. Our master plan completed by Herrera Environmental recommends several treatment methods, with one of the most effective and least expensive being alum treatment, which Becky has come to council and spoken at Fresh Waterways about it. Alum strips the phosphorus, the main nutrient for the harmful algae blooms, keeping the bacteria at the bottom of the water source, not letting it surface and feed the algae above. So it keeps that, in layman's terms, all that sludge down instead of letting it nutrate the algae up on top of the water, which is then what you see. So Aquatechnex, who we currently are contracted with, was able to provide us a quote for those services since they are our established vendor for 25 and 26 for the aquatic weed management program. This would be a change order to add this treatment, and so that change order is for $80,346, and we currently have a budgeted amount of $150,000. The areas that would be treated is Menard, Mid Duck Lake, South Duck Lake, Bass Canal, and Fishhook Canal. And they came to that conclusion by Aquatechnex doing satellite testing to see what the most impacted areas, and they give monthly reports. So if we find ourselves in need of any other areas in the future, it is easy to add and significantly goes down in price, and that's something that the mayor could just approve at that time as a part of this approval tonight.
All right, we have any public comment? Seeing none. Council, any comments? I don't know who was first. I'll go ahead. Kurt.
I had presented some questions to Becky a couple of days ago on this, and did she give you?
She did not. We can do our best. We do have a Freshwater Ways member in the audience. We can also follow up if those questions do not impact the passing or failing of this request. We can always follow up with you on that as well.
Okay. One was about this is being handled under our existing permit and not as a separate experimental or pilot project, right?
Correct. We already have the proper required permitting for this alum specifically.
Okay. By the way, I'm asking these on behalf of a citizen who.
Well, I'm answering them
me.
on behalf of Becky because that's the only way I know.
Excellent.
So if they're wrong, it's Becky's fault.
Well, you did answer one of the three questions I had, and well, two of them now. Can you clarify the status of the ecology permit update? Has that already been approved, or are there remaining steps or conditions that need to be completed before?
It's been approved.
It's been approved.
Pardon?
It's been approved.
Okay, then we're all done. Thank you.
Richard.
So I don't have any questions. I do have some observations or some comments. I was a member of the Freshwater Ways Corporation, which is a nonprofit organization that did a lot of work, clearing brush and yada yada. I was a member of that for about 7 years and have some experience on the waterways. I did a lot of research about how to address the problem that we have with algae blooms and the excess weed vegetation that grows in the waterways. Alum is the most effective treatment, and then there's another chemical that Aquatechnex, and I don't remember if it's bentonite or what, but alum is the primary, and this is a bargain. I came across a post when I was years ago that described the volume of water being treated, and when you use alum, you have to treat the entire body of water at one time for it to be effective. We can get away with not being quite so full treatment because our water is almost virtually stagnant, especially this time of year as the rains decrease. The only way for the water to get out is the spillway down by the CIC. So $80,000 for alum treatment, which will encapsulate the phosphorus that is the source of our cyanobacteria and feeds all of the rest of the weed vegetation, is an absolute bargain. So I'm very, very, very much in favor of passing this ordinance, and based on personal research as well as the Herrera report. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? How about on the right side of the table? We're all good. Any action on this? Oh, Allison, go ahead.
So I would like to make a motion to approve a request of the City Council of the City of Ocean Shores, Washington, awarding a change order to Aquatechnex to perform alum treatment in the fresh waterways in 2026.
Second.
All right, we have a second. Any other comments? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, unanimous. Thank you. All right, next up, we have a discussion about Forterra Property, and it's going to be presented by our planner, Marshall Reed, Forterra representative, Dan and Julie, and geoengineer representative. Are they online? Yeah. Okay.
Do we have them on there, Nicole? All right, great. Wake up, it's time.
I know. Good morning.
Good evening, Dan, Jennifer.
So this isn't a special event?
Yep, thank you for joining me tonight. So this presentation is a response to the council's request to bring back a little bit more detail about the value in terms of mitigation of the Forterra properties that are located down off of adjacent to Fairwood Drive all the way down to Sportsman. Anyway, if you looked at the last two maps in your agenda packet, one of them is labeled Wetland Parcels Division 17. That basically shows the location of the parcels that are considered for mitigation that Forterra Land Group currently owns and has offered to sell the city. And then the other map is the Ocean Shores Fire Break preliminary alignment. What we did is we had geoengineers and Jennifer crawled through those wetlands out there and did an evaluation, a higher level than what I did with ecology, to try to establish some values as to how much mitigation could be derived from that. Would it be enough to build the fire break, and would there be potentially any mitigation left over for other city or government projects? Just to be clear, if we secure those properties and the mitigation becomes available, it's only for government or city projects. We wouldn't be allowed to sell credits out of that like we do out of our mitigation bank. The advantage to this is we preserve the credits in the mitigation bank for private property development. And the other 4 pages that you see print out from Grace Harbor County kind of gives you an idea what the value is. This is one of those projects that does have a payback. It's a perpetual payback in the form of taxes. And if you look at page 59, or let's start out with page 58, in 2024, these are properties that purchased credits out of our wetland mitigation bank. In 2024, the property paid $270 in taxes. In 2026, after we had completed a project using mitigation out of the bank, we collected $3,218 and change in taxes. The assessed value of that same piece of property started out at $43,000 with no mitigation. After the project, it was worth $516,000 in assessed value. So while the payback isn't immediate, and it's probably not a 5-year payback, once you've paid back fully, then it continues to return taxes year after year. And so I think I'll let Jennifer maybe talk about the amount of credits generated by the Forterra properties and how she came about with those numbers. Jennifer.
Sure. Hello, everyone. So my name is Jennifer Dadesman. I'm a senior biologist with geoengineers. And so I went out to the Forterra properties. I walked the areas and basically evaluated the potential for mitigation. What could we do out there? And there are different options with wetland creation, rehabilitation, enhancement, preservation that all give you different mitigation values. And so from this walk, basically on these 4 parcels, I've identified that there is about 4.3 credits of mitigation available. Well, yes. Sorry. And so, Marshall, I don't know if you want me to get into the fire break and estimating.
Yeah, just give us a basic rundown on what we have estimated the need of the fire break, and then as far as impact
Sure.
acres, and then we'll talk about whether the Forterra properties contain enough mitigation to meet that need.
Sure, sure. So one of the things that we did is to evaluate if the Forterra properties had enough mitigation for the fire break project, is we needed to know how much wetland could potentially be impacted. And so based on previous work we have done, we analyzed where the elevations of those of previously identified wetlands in the area. And then we estimated in our proposed corridor what could be wetland based on elevations. And so we've identified about 1.04 acres of wetland that could be impacted from the fire break project. And then we looked at mitigation ratios that would be required from ecology. And based on those ratios, we need 1.56 acres of mitigation to compensate for the potential impact from the project. And so after I did the site walk on the Forterra property, and we figured out that the Forterra property can give us about 4.3 credits of mitigation. And so 4.3 minus the 1.56 acres we need, there's about 3.26 credits of mitigation that is available for future city projects.
Jennifer, could you clarify the estimated wetland impact of the corridor? Does that include buffer, which we calculated at 100% if it wasn't wetland?
Right. It does not include buffer impacts. So we totaled about 16 acres of buffer impacts from the corridor. But buffer impacts, other sources of mitigation that can be done are buffer enhancements of the remaining buffer where the fire break trail is. And so that can take the form of invasive plant species removal. We could plant some dune grass and native species outside the corridor potentially. And so there are other options on the fire break corridor that can help mitigate potential buffer impacts. There is some buffer mitigation that could be done at the Forterra property, but it's best suited for mitigation or wetland mitigation at the Forterra property. Most of the parcels, there's a lot of wetland out there.
Okay, great. So, Dan, I'd like to turn to you and just let you talk a little bit about how you guys came upon the properties down there and what you guys do for those in the room that aren't familiar with what you guys do as a group and what your offer is to the city, and maybe talk a little bit about some of the flexibilities you have in financing.
So thanks, Marshall. Appreciate it. So Forterra is a land conservation organization. We've been around for over 30 years. For the largest land conservation organization in the state of Washington. We've conserved over 250,000 acres throughout the state. And we conserve land for multiple purposes, for farming, for timber, for the usual keeping things from being developed in areas which we're trying to conserve. But Forterra is also is a very prides itself on trying to work with local governments, with developers, to come up with solutions that become win-wins. So we are not the type of organization which buys things solely for the purpose of ensuring that nothing ever happens to that property again. That's not what we're about. We're trying to do things which ultimately benefit the environment, but also are consistent with the needs of the community. So in this situation, we were approached by the former property owner, who was considering building a rather substantial multifamily building on these parcels. I think he was not not desirous of going down that road because he saw it would be a lot of permitting issues, and ultimately did not feel that that was the best use for this property. So he approached Forterra and offered to sell us the property at a significantly discounted price. Our original thought was to ultimately transfer the property to the State Department of Ecology, and it's as part of their efforts to protect salmon habitat. And so we've actually have made application to the state to do that, and that application is still pending. But we also, once we purchased the property, we had an inquiry from the city, from Marshall, and other staff because they had heard that we had acquired the property and wanted to see whether there would be an opportunity for the city to potentially acquire the property in order to address the fire break issues that Marshall has talked about. So, and as of this point, our application with the state is still pending, and given the state's fiscal situation, being completely candid, we are not overly optimistic as to what the state is going to end up doing. We did try to go to the state and say this should be a way to be a win-win, with the state maybe providing some funding and Ocean Shores providing some funding, and then the property being used for wetlands mitigation. The state program, unfortunately, that we were trying to apply under has an absolute prohibition on that kind of mitigation banking, which made no sense to us, but that's the parameters of the program, and so we were stymied in that effort. So we went back to Marshall, and who's been just phenomenal to work with in terms of trying to see if there's a way forward on this process, and we really appreciate that. And we've talked with the mayor and with the city manager about the project. And I mean, Forterra is basically, we're willing to transfer this property to the city. We're not trying to make money off of this. We just need cost coverage for what we paid for the property. The entire acquisition was financed by one of our donors, who lent us the entire purchase price, because he's supportive of what we do, and particularly supportive of what's happening in Ocean Shores. So we need to pay back that loan, and cover any closing costs and holding costs. But that's all we're trying to do. And as we've told Marshall, we're willing to work out some sort of deferred payment plan if that's what the city needs to do to make this work. I mean, our goal is to try to come up with a solution. Because we did borrow the money, though, if we can't reach a solution with the city, and if the state funding doesn't come through, then we ultimately will have to liquidate the property, because the person who lent us the money is although he's extremely altruistic, he's not going to just walk away from the loan. So we would turn the property over to him, and then he would deal with it as he deemed appropriate. So we're trying to avoid that. Again, he's been amazingly charitable and amazingly patient as we worked our way through this. Marshall, as I mentioned, yet there is a fourth parcel. Marshall, do you want to talk about that, or you want me to talk about that?
Yeah, go ahead. That is an option that's on the table that that if the council decides to move forward, you know.
So there's a fourth parcel adjacent to the three Forterra parcels. It's owned by Mr. Wong. He had approached Forterra about selling the property to us. We have told them that given the situation with state funding, that the only possibility would be to sell it to the city if that's what if that would be something the city's interested in. So there is a fourth parcel out there that could be acquired if the city wanted to buy it. And I'm not sure, Jennifer, did you do the analysis on the Wong property as well?
I did. I walked all four parcels. Yes. So the Wong property can offset about 1.2 acres of impact.
And the Forterra property can offset 3.1 acres, the three parcels.
Right.
I should have introduced Julie Courier. Julie Courier also works at Forterra. Julie has been integrally involved in this project from the outset as well.
I guess at this point are there any questions that the council?
We'll go to council.
Yeah.
So sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Lisa.
I know this is premature, but first off, what kind of money are we talking about, and do we have it? And
Dan, would you like to elaborate on that a little bit?
The purchase price we had set to Marshall for the three parcels was around $700,000. It may be a little higher than that now because of additional carrying costs, but it's going to be right around $700,000. The purchase price for Mr. Wong's property, Julie, do you remember what he was asking for that? It was like 150?
150 or 175 off the top of my head.
But, if the city wanted to buy that, we would be prepared to try to negotiate that if necessary. My sense is that Mr. Wong would like to be involved in this transaction if it's at all possible.
Anybody else? Yeah, Richard.
So Lisa basically asked my question, but you and Scott and Frank have more of a financial sense of the value of this mitigation process and the value of buying the property. So is this a good deal is my basic question.
I should have added, I'm sorry, the property appraised when we bought it at close to $2 million, just so you're aware.
So that sounds like a pretty good deal. 700 for two.
Well, let me tell you this. Buffer impacts, if we use these properties to offset any city use or government use of our mitigation bank, is worth base price $100,000 an acre for buffer impacts. And for commercial property development, we're selling a credit at $300,000 an acre. So if you do the math on that, before you calculate in the increased return on the value in property values being assessed for 5 times what they are currently, the payback, once we sell those credits out of the bank, instead of using those credits on city projects, it happens. What I would like to say is the one thing that is for sure in my mind is Ocean Shores is going to have mitigation needs in the future. There's a finite amount of mitigation out there available, especially within the city. This is an opportunity that the council should consider.
Go ahead, Lisa.
So I got from the presentation, this did not include any buffer impacts. And so there's also going to be fees associated with what those are going to cost in terms of plantings, and those mitigations. So just besides the property, there will be additional fees associated with correcting those impact.
Yeah, and there are, so I see that happening in two different ways, maybe a combination of the both. We can get pretty creative with buffer impact mitigation in replantings, in invasive species control. I've had conversations with ecology about getting volunteers together to go out and cut scotch broom and things like that. He said the mitigation value isn't great on that, but there is some mitigation value there. There's additional mitigation beyond the wetland impacts that could be used, to offset buffer impacts within this purchase. Obviously, we would like to reserve as much of those impacts for direct wetland impacts for future city projects. We've got one of our tsunami towers is sitting right in the middle of a wetland. So there's fees or mitigation requirements for projects like that. Shoreline work that gets done in the city on the south end. There are going to be mitigation requirements down there. I'm trying to do whatever I can to do on-site mitigation, and I think I've gotten ecology a long ways in my replantings and putting logs out and different things like that. So we're trying to maximize every stretch of mitigation that we can.
All right, Scott.
Okay, I guess a couple points on this, and there's a reason I wanted council to hear all this. We have been in, I don't know, endless meetings, it seems to me, dozens of meetings about this topic, and we're talking about, city resources and finances and what we could do. We're faced with two conundrums. Number one is that these rules were imposed by ecology upon us for the whole mitigation aspect. This city was pre-designed to be built out. It's a pre-planned community. You can see every lot on any city map that shows it out. And we don't have enough credits to build out everything. In addition, we have major city projects, which is what Marshall's referring to just now. Tsunami towers, mitigation issues, other things we're going to be dealing with. And so I didn't want to have this conversation in a vacuum, and I didn't want council not to know about it, that these were possibilities. I don't have a solution one way or the other. I would be very much more inclined to go ahead with this purchase of property if we could use it for private purposes and not just government purposes. And I think that's still a conversation I'd like to have with ecology, even if we have to bring our representatives into that. Because if we can use it for private purposes, we can sell those credits to developers, and then we're not at a loss. We may be at a short-term loss, but we won't be at a long-term loss. But we know we need to do something for fire breaks, for city projects, for future trails that we may want to do. And we only have so many credits in the Weatherbacks Bank. And I just thought, as we're going through all this, this is a decision. We just need to make sure that everyone is aware of what the options are and what hurdles we're facing.
Go ahead, Denise.
Yeah, following up on what you said, Scott, I think it would be valuable to try to, and I know we can't totally predict, but I think it would be valuable to try to at least predict how many of these credits would be used for government projects versus how many for private that we can actually get a payback on.
Anybody else? Yeah, Richard.
So this question may be more for Sarah than anybody else. And Sarah, I apologize for putting you on the spot, and all I'm asking for is a wild guess, and you can imagine what A is. So from a finance director point of view, will the city be able to come up with the purchase price for this and still leave enough money to do the things that we absolutely also have to do? And I apologize for putting you on the spot, and this is not a number that we're going to write in the contract. It's just your best estimate based on your finance experience.
So my stance as Marshall and the mayor and city administrator know on all of these things is that at some point the city and the council is going to need to prioritize. We cannot do it all. So to your question, I have no answer because I have no prioritization. What is more a priority? A police station, a fire break, the development of Ocean Shores? You're asking me a loaded question because we can't do it all. So if you don't do one, you could do the other, vice versa.
And I guess that's That's why we brought it to you as the council, is you guys are the legislative body that makes those kind of decisions for us.
Kurt, go ahead.
I hope this is not a naive question, but I'm just asking, is there a specific ask of the council tonight?
No, this is just for your consideration. It would come back as a formal request if it got that far.
Go ahead, Lisa.
So I guess question, because I know that Forterra is working with the property owner, what kind of a timeline? Is this like a 27 when we do budgeting, or are you thinking that it's gonna come forward this year?
Dan, can I defer to you or Julie on that question?
I mean, the simple answer to your question is if we had a strong indication from the city that you wanted to proceed forward, then we'll go back to the lender and get hopefully his approval to continue the loan for additional period of time. And if he knows that the city's intention is to move forward, then I would be hopeful that he would do that. With every month, every year, our carrying costs continue to rise. So it's not a lot, but for example, on the loan right now, we're paying around between 3% and 4% interest. So that has to be covered as part of our carrying costs. There's any insurance costs, and if we have on-site costs, which luckily we haven't had any yet. So it's mostly the carrying costs that we're dealing with right now in terms of interest costs. So we're at the point where we just would like to know that this is something the city says, yes, we're prepared to put this in our 2026 or 2027. I don't know what you put in your TIP or you put it in your capital plan or how you do things in Ocean Shores, but and somehow we know that this is going to happen, then I think we can move forward. What we would prefer not is a situation where you tell us, well, stay tuned, we'll get back to you in a year and decide whether we're going to do something then. That would be more troublesome.
All right, anybody else got any more questions or comments? All right, seeing none, thank you, Marshall.
Thank you, council.
All right, next we have an executive session. We will now move on to next order of business, which is our executive session. And we'll begin this at 8:49 p.m. And what do you think? 15 minutes?
Clarification, if we have two, do we have to come back out, or do we?
No,
yeah.
we don't.
So
read it.
This one, I would say 15 minutes. The next one, TBD. Okay.
All right, so we'll be roughly back or on to our next subject at 9:05. Yes, sir. Yeah, I will. I'm working my way down. Executive session will be that portion of the meeting for the governing body to consider the minimum price at which real estate will be offered for sale or lease when public knowledge regarding such consideration could cause a likelihood of decreased price. However, final action selling or leasing public property shall be taken in a meeting open to the public, RCW 42.30.110(1)C. And we're off. Let's go to our...
The executive session will begin at 9:15. Council will be in executive session for 20 minutes. They anticipate ending executive session at 9:35 p.m. Executive session will be that portion of the meeting for the governing body to discuss with legal counsel representing the agency matters relating to agency enforcement actions or to discuss with legal counsel representing the agency litigation or potential litigation to which
the agency, the governing body, or a member acting in an official capacity is or is likely to become a party when public knowledge regarding the discussion is likely to result in adverse legal or financial consequence to the agency. RCW 42.30.110, subsection 1I, there may be council action.
All right, we will reconvene the meeting, and I'd like to ask if there's going to be any council action. Go ahead, Denise.
No council action.
All right, no council action on our executive session. Agenda Review Committee will be Council Members Sires, Griebel, and Scott. And we've got next up is good of the order, so I'll start down here with Tom.
For those who stuck it out with us, I hope you have a great sleep.
All right, Lisa Griebel.
I'll pass tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, Allison.
I'll pass.
All right, Denise.
I just wanted to thank everybody who showed up. The importance of civic engagement is something that all of the council appreciates.
Lisa Scott.
Shout out to the city crews for hosting the city dump on Saturday. There were a lot of people and there was a lot of stuff. So thank you.
All right, Richard.
So I also want to give a big shout out to all of the people who spoke in public comment tonight. But I also want to explain something because there were a lot of comments about they were unhappy that we tabled. And according to Robert's rules, when an agenda item is tabled, then the only way it can come back again is if a majority of council says to bring it back. And so effectively, tabling this ordinance, in my mind, and the reason that I voted to table, is that this likely kills this ordinance, and so there's virtually no chance of this coming back. I will go on to say that since I was in high school, my belief in the Constitution, if you change two words instead of all men to say all humans, my belief in the Constitution and its validity right down to my cellular level. And so I am just adamant that First Amendment rights is one of the driving foundations of what can actually make America great. Unfortunately, there's a cancer in American society that goes back to the Mayflower or earlier. The cancer is bigotry and racism and overall prejudices. And the First Amendment is the best way to combat that. So I think that the council made the right decision, and I wanted to educate those people who were unhappy that we tabled. So that's my comments. Thank you.
All right, Kurt.
I just want to say for the record, I had nothing to do with writing that ordinance, and I voted no to tabling it for the sole reason that it had nothing to do with the ordinance itself. It had to do with wanting to discuss such issues in public among everybody, with everybody in the audience. I thought it was important to have an open discussion like we did with the sanctuary city thing. Other than that, I have no issues with one way. Thank you.
All right, Denise had one more thing to say.
Yeah, I just wanted to explain what Richard said. First of all, I did choose to use table rather than take it off because when you do table, it does require a majority of council to bring it back. With having a majority of council to bring it back, that does neither assure that it will come back, nor does it assure that it is dead. It will simply need the majority of council, meaning 4 members, to make the decision to bring it back.
All right, can I get a adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
We're adjourned.
Yes. Right on.
This has been a live presentation of North Beach TV. We now return you to our regular programming. Already in progress.